and welcome. Hello and welcome to today's presentation. We will be going over the rules regarding uh, taking a salary from a business that's funded via ROBS 401k. So thank you so much, and please ask questions in the live chat. We'll be fielding them here live. So let's see. And please like this video and subscribe for more videos like this. So let's get going. I see we've got a nice turnout for today's call. Okay, so the question that we're going to go over is how much salary I can take. So evaluating the reasonableness of the business owner's compensation it's not really a black and white exercise. So it's not that the IRS is going to maintain a list of salaries. They're not going to say, okay, well, if you are working in a Jimmy John's franchise, you can receive X amount, or if you're working in a different type of business in a different state, this is considered to be a reasonable salary. So that's probably ultimately a good thing, that they're not dictating how much you can make. Instead, it's a standard. There's a standard that you need to satisfy in order to be able to determine how much you can make. So, all right. So some of the factors here are going to be income, W-2, reasonableness. So in determining how much you can take, I mean, first of all, one thing that comes up a lot is whether you have to take a salary at all. So from a 401k perspective, there's no requirement to take a minimum salary. Of course, some tax advisors we hear from our customers, or when we speak to them, they will say that if the business is really making money and the individual is working in that business, 40 hours a week, they really need to take, from a business perspective, putting aside the fact that the business happens to be owned via the 401k, they really need to take some type of minimum salary to satisfy the business tax rules. So another question is going to be, okay, well, when can I start taking a salary? So under the ROBS 401k rules, you need to wait until the company is generating income to justify your salary. So let's be specific. So that doesn't necessarily mean that the company needs to be making profits. You could have essentially, a break-even business, and as long as it's bringing in income, the doors are opening, you have sales, then you would be able to start taking reasonable compensation. So the compensation that you receive, it needs to be paid to you as W-2 wages. So you cannot be compensated as a 1099 contractor. And this is really a ROBS 401k rule. And it goes back to how you funded your business. So you funded your business by, in order to be able to access that retirement money without paying taxes or penalties, you have to follow specific steps. So that means you got to transfer the money from your existing retirement account over to a 401k. So in order for you to participate in the 401k, you got to be a W-2 employee. 401ks are not for contractors. So it's not going to be consistent with the fact that you have a 401k and you're participating in a 401k if you're working as a 1099 contractor. So any compensation you receive needs to be paid as W-2 wages. So then it comes back to, well, what's reasonable? So that depends on the work that you're doing, the market that you're in, the experience that you have. In other words, if this business, if you were to hire somebody else not related to you, or multiple people, say, to do all the work that you're going to do, how much would the company need to pay those individuals? So that's what, essentially, in a nutshell, is what's reasonable. So looking at that a little bit closer, you've got hours worked, the duties performed, the importance of that employee. So it's not going to be based on your lifestyle. I know that sometimes we feel the question where somebody says, well, I have all these expenses, my kids are in college, they are, maybe I've got some other big expense in my life. So the fact that you have these expenses is not really relevant to how much, it's not relevant at all to how much you can receive as reasonable compensation. Just like when you're a business owner, if you have an employee that comes to you and says, hey, I want to drive a Mercedes and wear fancy clothes and put my kids in private school, you're going to say, well, that's great, but the compensation you receive is based on the work that you're performing, the role that you play, the hours that you work, those types of things. So it works the same here. And just to add on to that, I mean, a lot of times we have folks that are coming from corporate America, and so they may be used to a certain salary working in corporate America. They may have been an executive in corporate America, and now they want to pursue a totally different business. So where their prior experience may not be really relevant to that business. So the fact that you might have made 6 figures working in corporate America and now you want to operate a frozen yogurt franchise, that doesn't necessarily justify you receiving that same type of compensation being the manager. You would need to justify it based on those other factors, the work that you're performing, how much the company would have to pay other people to do all the work that you do for the frozen yogurt franchise. Okay, well, let's move on. And again, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask in the live chat. So let's go over some tidbits. So another scenario that we field a lot is having your spouse work in the business. So you may have a scenario where one spouse is the person that's using your retirement money to fund the business, but both spouses are going to work in the business. So it is acceptable for the other spouse to work in the business, but it's the same rules are going to apply. So the spouse needs to receive W-2 wages. It's got to be reasonable based on the work that the spouse is performing. The company needs to have income coming in to justify the spouse's compensation. So it's not going to be 1099 income for the spouse, that sort of thing. Now, as far as the tracking of the hours, so some folks will say, well, hey, do I need to actually punch a clock? So the answer is no. I mean, there's definitely other ways that you could demonstrate the work that you're performing, right? You might have business records, for example, emails, conference notes, things of that nature to justify all the work that you've done in the business. Okay, well, again, if anyone has any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Thanks everyone for joining. We're going to be posting more videos here soon, more live chats. So please continue to subscribe and you'll get notified for those future meetings. Thank you.